Me and my team have helped men get off testosterone replacement therapy, and I'll talk about why you might want to do that if you're on it. And also, men in their 60s get optimal testosterone. This is the framework that we use. So, we've got to identify the inhibition of testosterone. We've got to find out why it's being aromatized into estrogen, and then we've got to have a look at the accelerators to do it. So, we're going to go through all of these steps here. Should take about an hour to get through. Now, as I'm progressing through this, we're also going to touch on these, and that's going to be the next two videos. So we have to go deep into the weeds on the next two videos. So on these videos are linked below too. The system lied about your testosterone. If you want the truth, check that out. It's linked below. And this one here is the difference between standard labs and optimal labs. So check that one out. So as you can see here, 62, 791. So never back the idea that you can't optimize your man juice. Now, why is it important? Well, as I talked about in this video there, it is a benchmark for your health, your longevity, and how well you show up in life. It affects every area of your life. So this is me and Dr. Ken Berry, and he was just talking to me about the symptoms of low T and how you actually feel when you get it optimized. So listen to Dr. Ken.
But you're going to feel more like making better choices. And I think that's huge for the average guy out there who just is fatigued, is miserable, is tired. And so I guess that's a great segue to talk about the symptoms of low testosterone. Probably for most men, the number one symptom, maybe not the number one symptom they complain of, but the most prevalent symptom is just fatigue, lack of motivation, lack of desire. I used to tell men in the clinic, it's like you want to, but you don't really want to. And 100% of the time, if they had low T, they'd be like, that's exactly how I feel. I really want to, but I don't really want to. Yeah. And that's not normal. That people, we forget because we're around so many sick people and we're often sick ourselves metabolically. We forget that the default state of the human male is to be on, to be ready, to be ready to defend, to be ready to attack, to be ready to do whatever needs to be done to protect yours and the people who you love. That's literally the definition of the human male. Is we've got a dangerous brain, and we can use that brain to defend, to protect, or to attack, depending on what the situation calls for. But when that brain is clouded, when it's muddled, when it's inflamed, you can't make those decisions, and you wind up making bad decisions, which ultimately worsen your health.
Yeah. So we keep going back to. All right. So we can kind of appreciate how important it is, but definitely check out that video there to see why. Now, this is a gentleman we got off TRT, and he had a low testosterone gene. And I'll talk about that in the second video from now. He had very slow elimination of estrogen. So if estrogen stays up too high, down comes your testosterone. And to make that worse, he was also highly sensitive to estrogen. When he came to me, he said, Mark, I was told if I go on testosterone replacement therapy, that'll fix all the problems I've got. He had lack of drive and motivation. He had anxiety and depression. And when he went on TRT, he told me that it made it worse because he got sensitive nipples. And that's because he was very highly sensitive to estrogen, and he eliminates estrogen very slowly. So he was on an injection that lasted about 3 weeks. So testosterone soared up and it came crashing back down. And because he had issues that wasn't resolved, all of that testosterone was being aromatized into estrogen. So instead of going down here to dihydro, it was biased to go to estradiol, E2. And 35, and he wants to have kids. Now here's the problem if you go on TRT. The gonadotropins, FSH and LH, they are undetectable. You stop producing these gonadotropins. So undetectable there. Now FSH is the precursor to spermogenesis, fertility. When we checked his sperm count, it was only 2 million. And you need 15 million to be fertile. And of course, his LH was on the floor too because he was injecting it. He didn't need to make it. So fast forward 4 months, we got his sperm count at 23 million and his testosterone naturally back up to 813, FSH and LH in the butter zone. So you can certainly get off, and that's what me and my team did for this gentleman. Right here, so let's talk about what we need to optimize to make sure that we're producing a lot of testosterone. So we got to get the inhibition off the table and stop aromatization, and then understand what accelerates testosterone production. So at the top here, you will be shut down when your estrogen's too high or your testosterone. So we don't want estrogen to go too high. Like you could be 350 with high estrogen, you just shut down constantly there. Inflammation, and I talked about this on the last video, which is linked below. The system will tell you that your inflammation is between 1 and 3 on high sensitive CRP, and that's not ideal. So you got inflammation that's keeping your testosterone down. Then, of course, environmental stresses like these chemicals, they mimic estrogen and they lower testosterone. And to make matters worse, they disrupt your thyroid, your metabolism. And also things like cortisol. So if we're anxious or angry, that's going to shut us down. Hypoglycemia, hyper, so up and down fluctuations in blood sugar. Then leptin and insulin. So we've got to understand where you are being, basically shut down. Now, right here, you mightn't know this yet, but every 2 hours, your gonadotropins are released, like clockwork. FSH, spermogenesis, LH, Leydig cells, testosterone. So here's a short list. Cortisol, insulin, leptin, xenos, inflammation. That's going to keep your T low and then aromatize it into estradiol. So this research paper here, a lot of guys are suffering out there. This one was published in Endocrinology back in 2012, and it's behind a paywall. They don't want you to see this information. There's lots of other studies that show exactly the same result. So you've already got suboptimal testosterone, say 350, so it's low anyway, so you're feeling kind of shit. But because it's low, you're producing more estrogen. So your estrogen is up, which increases aromatization tenfold, which pushes up your cortisol because you feel like shit, which further increases aromatization ninefold, which pushes up your appetite and your insulin, the fat-storing hormone, to further upregulate aromatization sixfold. So you got a full 25-fold increase, even though you got low T. Now, stress, anxiety, and fear and aggression, being bitter and resentful is all going to cause that. And we've been told that testosterone causes aggression. No, it's not testosterone at all. It's something else.
And it is actually testosterone aromatized, converted into estrogen, and then binding to these estrogen-containing neurons in the ventromedial hypothalamus that triggers aggression. I want to repeat that. It is not testosterone itself that triggers aggression. It is testosterone aromatized into estrogen within the brain and binding to these estrogen receptor-containing neurons in the ventromedial hypothalamus that evokes aggression, and dramatic aggression at that. Now, this effect of estrogen causing aggression in the brain is very robust, so much so.
So you're a sinking ship like Titanic. And as I learned from Dr. J, 5-year PhD in hormones, when you got chronic low testosterone, as you see here, hypogonadism, primary. Penis, prostate, testes, scale down and atrophy. So we got to work out what's causing your low T and stop the aromatization and actually push down the gas pedal on the accelerators. So we stop sinking like the fucking Titanic. Now, right here, we'll just quickly talk about a few of the labs, and the video is linked below so you can check that one out in detail. But if you've got suboptimal vitamin D, you're never going to make optimal testosterone. That's the bottom line, that one thing alone. So your blood vessels are screwed up. You've also got thrombosis, thick sludgy blood. Your testes, low testosterone. Thyroid, your lipids, atherosclerosis, plaque in your arteries, which lead to endothelial dysfunction and erectile dysfunction. Over here, your platelets and white blood count. So your immune system's fucked. Your pancreas, diabetes. And then you've got hypertension with kidney issues. And this one here, when I went through and did training with Dr. Daddis when I was doing my certificate in nutrition, I couldn't believe the autoimmune part of it. And this dude, he's pretty intelligent. PhD, DHS, so you get the idea. And when I went through and listened to this excerpt, I couldn't believe what I heard. And I was in this autoimmune disease process. I had 5 shoulder surgeries that cost me tens of thousands of dollars that I should never have had, which led to asthma, gut issues, skin issues, high blood pressure. I was in this process and I had no clue. Now, if I knew what to test for, it would never have happened. I would have picked it up in stage 1. So listen to this. It is just incredible.
Now, the healthcare system is only designed to look for stage 3. They don't do antibodies in the initial stages. Insurance companies don't pay for antibodies in the early stages. And even though the research has shown that antibodies can be predictive for autoimmune diseases, it's not part of routine healthcare. So there's a gap between what research finds and then what actually gets implemented in the healthcare system. So if you're walking into your insurance model, healthcare model, there's going to be no effort or diagnostic testing even approved designed to look for these early antibodies that will determine if you have autoimmunity. And because of that, many people suffer for years and years and years before they get diagnosed because they're not in stage 3 where they have full tissue destruction. So that's the concept of autoimmunity stages. Stage 1, silent, just the antibodies, no symptoms. Stage 2, they start to have symptoms for whatever tissue is being attacked by their immune system. And stage 3, they finally progress into a disease process. And remember I showed you those statistics in the first part of the course where they showed 50 million people may have autoimmune disease, or 4% of the world population may have it, or 12% of women has autoimmune disease. Those are all in reference to stage 3. If you actually look at the numbers of people that are in stage 1 or 2, the numbers would be much, much higher.
So they don't pick it up until you go full tissue destruction. And a lot of times it's too late. And they can pick it up here like a decade before it even gets to that place. And they don't pay for it. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, here's a simple test here, Boom, boom. You've got it, fix it. Easy, simple solution. So what we've covered so far is just a couple of labs, and the other videos linked below. Now we're going to go into the first of 8. Big food, heavy metals, chemicals, mold, ZEA. You're intelligent. You understand that big food is a big problem. Look at this. Amplifies the systemic inflammation, advanced glycation and lip oxidization end products in your food. Atherosclerosis, plaque in your arteries, arthritis, asthma, endocrine disorders, and it causes 50 times more free radicals, and it's packed full of additives and chemicals. Big toxic. Now this here is incredible. Shanna Shawn here, this is all she researches, future generations. Now it's unequivocal. We are losing sperm count. Testosterone is plummeting. And a big part of that problem is these chemicals that we're exposed to. Anti-androgenic chemicals. So they mimic estrogen, so that brings down your T, and they lower your testosterone and your metabolism through thyroid disrupting agents. Now, as she says here, you've got, basically a woman that is pregnant, and we know what that means, you've got irreversible demasculinizing consequences. Things like Tylenol, anti-androgenic. Now, the reason for that is they use petrochemicals, crude oil. And Dr. J said to me, that mimics estrogen. So you take these big pharma drugs and the over-the-counter drugs, they mimic estrogen, so that brings down your T while you're on them. And these chemicals, it doesn't matter whether it's your natural estrogen or the chemicals or phytochemicals, they mimic estrogen, and this is what happens.
This is another reason it's tough to put on muscle mass. It's tough to bulk up, because he's fighting a lot of estrogen.
Fighting a lot of estrogen, so you got your low T. So they're in our foods. And as you can see here, these pesticides, they interfere with testosterone synthesis and they destroy your mitochondria, which we'll touch on about 3/4 the way through this presentation. And the older you get, the worse this becomes because they start to atrophy your ball sack. Now, this is pretty cool. This is Dr. J and myself talking about big food. So it's highly addictive, and they put a lot of these estrogen mimicking chemicals in it. So it is big toxic. Check it out.
Bodies. So we're so saturated with estrogen chemicals. The last thing we need is another estrogen chemical coming from soy, you know?
Yeah.
And it's that simple. And then, I mean, there's a lot of other problems with soy, just in terms of glyphosate also acting like estrogen. Some of these chemical sprays they add onto that also act like estrogen. Some of the oils, like you mentioned, you highlight here in this picture.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very oxidized, and the oxidation is very damaging to your arteries. So, you know, and by the way, like Canadians did a study of over 100 plants looking at how much plant estrogen they have, phytoestrogen they call it. And all the plants were under 1,000 units except for soy and flax. And soy and flax were over 100,000 units of estrogen.
So what does that mean for
difference.
What should a natural estrogen be for blokes, for men?
Natural estrogen, it's variable. I mean, somewhere around 20 to 80, you know, somewhere in there.
And we're talking 100,000 in soy.
Exactly.
That's going to shut you down real fast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to act like estrogen to store fat and make you tired and apathetic.
Now, to be fair, if you've got a healthy gut, this isn't too much of an issue, but you've got to have the right gut bacteria to metabolize these phytoestrogens. And not too many people have a healthy gut, and we'll talk about that today. Now, they engineer these foods to also be highly, highly addictive. This is going to blow your mind. Check it out. This is Dr. J and me talking about it.
Relation there is in this topic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at these chips from KFC, I mean, it should be 3 ingredients: the chips, the oil they cook them in, and salt, right? But they're packed full of soy. And I guess that would be because they're highly addictive soy proteins. Walk us through that.
Exactly. Yeah, so exactly. I was going to mention this, that there's only a few plants that act on your opioid receptor. And gluten is one of them. Dairy is one of them, casein and dairy. And then soy is one of them. Those are the big hitters. And so they're addictive. So food companies put those 3 things. They put dairy proteins, they put gluten proteins, and then they put soy proteins in food products, literally just to make them more addictive. And sometimes they don't even put them on the label. You're lucky if the fact that it's actually on the label. And of course, people aren't reading the label when they're going to a fast food restaurant like KFC. They're just getting whatever, and they're not even looking at the ingredients.
Yeah.
But even sometimes they're legally allowed, companies are legally allowed to put natural ingredients or natural flavors on labels. So you don't even necessarily know if they're sneaking some of these opioid receptor binding, these heroin-like molecules, right? Yeah. Heroin mimicking molecules, these addictive molecules into your food.
Yeah. And we keep coming back for more because they make us feel temporarily good, but they bring down everything that's important to us, our energy and our testosterone.
Right. And you become more dependent on them. And so it's hard to get off of them, and then it's hard to stop eating. And, you know, so it becomes more of more than just an intellectual problem for a lot of people. A lot of people know it's bad for them. They keep doing it anyway. Yeah.
And to make matters worse, a lot of these opioid peptides, they lower SAMe and glutathione.
Right.
So that's pretty detrimental, isn't it? So for detox and liver, what's going to happen?
Yeah, so glutathione, one of the main functions is just clearing heavy metals. And so you're going to end up with more heavy metal buildup. You're going to end up with more oxidation between both of these molecules going down. And oxidation damages your arteries. It causes fatigue. It lowers testosterone, on and on. I mean, it's the whole lineup of things you don't want to have happen in your body, all happening at once. Yeah, and some people, to make matters worse,
Isn't that incredible? Like, they've got these mold toxins in them, which I'll speak about in a moment. So that mimics estrogen. Things like atrazine, and they've got these chemicals in them that mimic estrogen. And then, soy, wheat, and milk very addictive. So this is flour. Why they need all that shit? Isn't it just bread, flour, and milk? And I just can't understand that. And as I mentioned in that video with Dr. J there, it screws up CME, which is methylation. If you're not methylating, you can't switch on and off genes. DNA repair, and then it lowers your glutathione. It's like it's a beautiful plan to keep us just surviving, put us on medication, and that's their business model. So pause that and read over that. I mean, it's just incredible. Brain, heart, thyroid, pancreas, immune, cancer, and these other conditions here, including chronic fatigue, gout. Oh man, it's a mess. And as he mentioned there, the glyphosate mimics estrogen, and they spray it everywhere. You should pick up this book here, Toxic Legacy, as she discusses in there. Gut issues, amino acid, glycine, it mimics amino acid glycine, phosphate, methylation, as I just mentioned, sulfate, ATP, liver disease, reproduction, testosterone, sex hormones, brain, autoimmune. So big toxic. So heavy metals. So as you're eating these foods, yeah, glutathione's not really quite working too well. So you can't clear out all this crap, which lowers your glutathione, increases your inflammation, necrosis, apoptosis, cell death, accelerated aging. Now here's a panel we got back from a client: aluminium, mercury. Aluminium is extraordinarily toxic, and you burn through your minerals trying to detox this shit. And as you can see here with this nutrient analysis and electrolyte, all the electrolytes are low, feels like shit, fatigued, and all these minerals are low. The body can't do the work. And then here's this ZEA that mimics estrogen. ZEA, Zerolone there. So this one here, positive, it's 3 times where it should be, and it has a potent affinity to the estrogen receptor. And guess where you find this moldy shit? In our food. They let it sit around, it collects mold, then they feed it to just the chickens and the beef. If it's not grass-fed, grass-finished, you could be getting a dose of this. System toxicity, and this is this mold toxin. Gut issues, testosterone, reproduction, immune system, metabolic issues. So it's a pretty big deal. Now, these are all the chemicals that we've researched, and just all you got to do is understand this. It mimics estrogen, lowers your testosterone, and disrupts your thyroid. Enough said. It's just that easy to understand. So what you want to think about is, let's just say you buy a high-performance car. So what do? You insure it, you garage it, you wash it, you look after it. Now, why don't you do the same thing to your body? Why do you put in suboptimal shit? Why don't you tune it up? Why don't you change the oil? Why don't you look after it? Because you've only got one body, one brain, one life. We have to start thinking of this amazing fucking gift as a high-performing car, because it is. So what we've covered so far is big food, big toxic. Now we're going to roll into food sensitivities that you might think you're eating healthy foods. Well, I'm going to show you that probably you're not, and what to do. So the worst thing that food sensitivities do, number one, they will destroy your mitochondria, and number two, they will destroy your gut. And these pesticides, they damage your mitochondria. So you've got, by estimates, about 40 trillion cells. And within those cells, you've got the mitochondria, anywhere from a few hundred to 10,000. 10,000 prefrontal cortex, 10,000 in your heart, producing your ATP, cellular energy. And they are also responsible for making your neurotransmitters, higher thinking, good moods. In the periphery, immune health, gut health. They are a necessary step to make your sex hormones. They repair RNA and DNA. Do you want to get that body? Do you have stubborn body fat, or maybe you're a bit overweight? They're the only place you can burn body fat, and they are in control of protein synthesis, muscle growth. And it doesn't stop at muscle growth. Our body is a protein machine. They are responsible for protein synthesis everywhere. When your DNA makes a protein to detox, to make testosterone, that is protein synthesis. Homeostatic balance, and this is what I think they do, which is most important. They signal and communicate to cells, systems, and organs. Central nervous system, sports performance, reaction time, cognition, higher thinking, better moods, sleep. Your intestines, so you actually absorb nutrients from your food, and also the microbiome for good gut health. Circadian system, which is foundational, and we'll talk about that last. Metabolic system, metabolic pathways, detox, energy production, and the immune system, both branches of the immune system. Gene expression, the switching on and off genes, controlling methylation, and epigenetic pathways and cell fate. So if they're sick, you have accelerated aging, including wrinkles. And if your vitamin D is deficient, your thyroid will be deficient, and you will have mitochondrial dysfunction. Boom, right there. So you can kind of appreciate how you've got to really treat this body, this gift that you've been given by your mum and your dad, as a high-performing car, because it is. What you decide to put in your body, whether that's personal care products and the foods that you eat, they have a profound effect on how well you live. Gut health. So these food sensitivities will destroy your gut. Eventually down the road, you'll have the gut-brain axis disrupted, so stress, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, cognitive decline, and even autism. And unfortunately, a lot of people have IBS, as I did, and they just brush it off. Oh, I've got a little bit of bloating. Oh, I've got a little bit of gut pain. You've got problems. And the gut endocrine axis, your hormones. And as a double whammy down here, your gut ball sack, testicle axis, ovaries for ladies. And there's this one right here, the gut muscle axis. You're doing everything right, well, you think, but you're not getting great results in the gym. Eventually, sarcopenia sets in, 50, 60, you become very frail. Pancreas, diabetes, and the liver. The liver is getting rid of chemicals. It's getting rid of heavy metals. It's getting rid of estrogen. It is so important, doing a lot of pretty important things. So let's talk about a few of the foods that you could be genetically sensitive to. In the second video from this one out, we'll talk more in depth about this. But we've tested over 330 people now genetically, and we're finding about just over 60% have some sensitivity to lectins. Now, lectins are everywhere. You could be eating them and be sensitive to them. So what shows up in your life? Well, this is Dr. J and me talking about lectins.
The lectin is the big one. That's a 4-fold higher risk of heart disease, even as a plus minus, the SELE.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, so lectins are going to trigger a lot of damage to the arteries and damage to the gut. I would recommend avoiding grains.
Yeah.
You know, grains are the major source of lectins.
Yeah.
And his gut's very sensitive to grains also, with the gluten. And he's got a thyroid gene that comes up later with gluten as well. So I would say just take off the grains, you know, especially gluten.
Yeah.
So you've been given this plan, and you've got a DNA sensitivity to it. You've hired this personal trainer, and he means really well, but he has got no clue you have this sensitivity, and you don't get the results. Now, eventually down the road, this is progressing like it was for me, to an autoimmune disease. So I don't know about you, I don't want to take any risk with my health. I'm treating this body as a V8 supercar. I'm going to push down the accelerator and thrive. Now, these gut issues can be driven by a lot of different things: food sensitivities, medications like antacids, xenobiotics, antibiotics, corticosteroids, immunosuppressants, stress, So if you've got anxiety or you're bitter and resentful, you're aggressive, up goes your stress hormones. You can't switch on rest and digest, absorb your food, and also repair your gut and intestines and colon. And if you've got suboptimal thyroid, progesterone, estradiol, and testosterone, so you need the right ratio for men of estradiol and testosterone. Then over here, like basically high blood sugar, so you got blood sugar swings up and down. So they're the big issues. So these food sensitivities will start to destroy your gut, and then they'll put you on this shit, will make it worse, which will push up your stress hormones, push down these hormones, and your blood sugar will be swinging all over the place, and you'll feel like shit. And then you're left with all of this mess right there. Food sensitivities are a pretty big deal. So we've covered this and this. Now we're going to talk about primary and secondary hypogonadism. And also varicocele, which simply means your ball sack there has got weird looking veins. So you got poor blood flow. Now there's 4 stages, grade 0 all the way through there. Now this mightn't be you, but it could be. If you want more information on that, drop a comment below. Happy to. This is what I had a while ago, and you can recover from this. Then you've also got primary hypogonadism and secondary. Now, if you've got primary, generally your FSH and LH will be elevated. And if that's you, you can fix this. That's good news because you can fix this. And if you've got secondary at the hypothalamus there, you'll have suboptimal LH and FSH. So your testosterone will come down. And the issue with low testosterone, as I mentioned there, it'll eventually drive hypogonadism. And again, right here, I'll just bring this to front, these chemicals, been associated with a number of serious problems: infertility, testicular fucking dysgenesis, I mean shit, obesity, asthma, which nearly killed me in 2017, allergies, it's pretty terrible, these chemicals. Now let's talk about erectile dysfunction. This is called venous leak. And what I'm going to do is play a video from Dr. Amy B. Keelan, leading expert in sexual performance and longevity. So she's just explaining what's going to be driving this, because you don't want this. You want no fucking part of this.
These cells within the penis, these smooth muscle cells, begin to die. This is called apoptosis. Apoptosis happens for a number of reasons, but once you lose about 15% of the cells within here, all of a sudden you lose the ability to expand completely. You can still expand and you can still have an erection, but it's not a full erection. And so when that happens, you've got your tunica, but those veins are staying open. So the blood comes in, but the blood then goes right back out of these open veins because you haven't expanded fully and you don't have a full erection. Does that make sense? So this is called venous leak, CVOD, but it's not a vein problem. It's actually a problem with the cells inside the corpora cavernosa. These cells, these smooth muscle cells, are the problem. Now, what causes these cells to die? Oxidative stress of some sort. So things that cause inflammation and oxidative stress can increase the death of these cells. So that could be just age, but it also could be poor lifestyle choices. It could be diabetes or high blood pressure. It could be a high sugar diet. It could be not exercising. Also, low testosterone over time can do that.
Low testosterone over time can do that. And you can recover from this. You can recover from this. And it's not hard to do. It just takes time. Growth hormone, thyroid, testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, stem cells. You can recover from this. So never ever think that it's hopeless, because it's not. So we've covered all of this now, and what we're going to do is cover the omega-3 index. And if yours is below this 8%, that's not good. Right here, this study was all about the ratio of omega-6 and omega-3. So you can do a test that will show you where your omega index is. Now, you definitely want it above 8%. We like to see it, me and my team, 10% and higher. Testicular volume and size. As you can see in this paper, low testicular volume among men with the highest intake of omega-6 from fucking seed oils suggests that these fats could negatively influence testicular function acting directly on the fucking testes. So right here over 12 weeks, increased testicular size and volume. And as your omega-6 declines, so does your ball sack. Then your testosterone declines, and you're moving towards hypogonadism. Now, what do we need to do to increase testicular weight and size, but also recycle the testosterone receptor so your testosterone actually does what it's supposed to do? Make you feel good, give you the body, motivation, energy. What we have to do is increase healthy levels of cholesterol to the testes, reduce oxidative stress and lipid peroxidization in the testes, enhance the activity of the antioxidant enzymes. Remember, big food, they're lowering these, glutathione. We have to normalize blood glucose and increase blood flow to the testes. So this is where the omega-3 index comes in. So if you're here, in this zone there, you're in the wrong zone. You are going towards smaller balls, lower T. So in the green zone here, as you can see, look, this is one of the omega-3s, EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid. It blocks lipid peroxidization right there. So really simple to fix, and you can get yours in about 12 weeks in the green. Really easy solution. So we've covered all of this now. So we're going to now cover nutrient status and deuterium, which is huge. So let's talk about deuterium from the get-go. So remember I talked about the mitochondria, and we don't want them to suffer. We want them to be healthy. Well, when you eat food, it's broken down into high energy molecules, electrons and hydrogen ions. Now there's three forms of hydrogen ions. There's a radioactive one, which we won't talk about, but you've got two others that we need to focus in on. So hydrogen 1 here is what's called a proton. Hydrogen 2 is what's called a deuterium. We need to get your deuterium levels to 130 parts per million, and I'll explain why shortly. So if your deuterium levels are above that, what happens is when you eat food, they're broken down into these two components. Then the electrons go into the inner mitochondrial membrane space. As they're going through complex 1 through complex 4, all they're doing is bringing up these positive protons into the inner mitochondrial membrane space through these complexes. And it's like a battery. You've got a positive charge up here and you've got a negative charge down there. So when enough protons get up there, they come down through this protein complex called ATP synthase, and it spins it like a little turbine, which produces your cellular energy, your ATP, so you're not fatigued. The problem with deuterium is it's too big and too heavy. So it doesn't really fit down through ATP synthase. It shudders and destroys your mitochondria over time. Now, here's the research on deuterium, and incidentally, this has been known for close to 70 years, and someone's bearing this research. Big Pharma? Probably. Deuterium depleted diet, October 13th, 2024. Deuterium depletion was found to have beneficial health effects on the following conditions: cancer prevention, treatment, depression, diabetes, memory, anti-aging, and sports performance. It makes perfect sense. It's all about healthy mitochondria. And just going down a bit further here, boom, deuterium. So when we get it to 130 ppm parts per million, we have these benefits: anti-cancer, brain metastases, lung, breast, pancreatic, colorectal, prostate. Neuroprotective, anti-anxiety, depression, enhances memory. Anti-aging and antioxidants. So it's protecting your DNA, reducing free radical oxidation, and it's increasing the antioxidant enzymes. And that's exactly what we need for healthy testosterone levels. The antioxidant enzymes right here. And over here, we've got managing obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, enhances detoxification, anti-inflammatory, and anti-radiation. Now, the system, and incidentally, this is behind a paywall. You have to pay to see this. They tell us to eat all of these foods, don't they? This is what they say to focus on. Problem one, they're very low in vitamins and minerals. Problem two, their deuterium content is anywhere from 145 parts per million to 210 parts per million. So if you eat those foods, you will go above the 130. So where are the low deuterium foods? Well, they are in the foods they tell us not to eat. All of these foods here. So, one, very high in vitamins and minerals to keep all your metabolic pathways turning. And number two, deuterium 110 to 135 parts per million. So if you eat those foods, you're going to optimize your deuterium content. So what we've covered now are these 6 points. Let's just quickly talk about the mindset aspect. Now, when you've got distress in your body, you've got food sensitivities, a sick gut, all of those issues, your brain shortchanges you. So this is what happens. You have anhedonia, so lack of motivation and ending up with depression. You've got anxiety. You have avoidance. You've got your head buried in the sand. Poor emotional responses. Fatigue. You have fear, hypervigilance, and you worry a lot. And then you also push up your cortisol, which lowers your testosterone. Remember, cortisol will aromatize what little testosterone you got left into estrogen, and you feel like shit. And you can also get glucocorticoid resistance. You need more cortisol to activate the same physiological response that cortisol does. So it makes it worse. So it keeps your testosterone low and your estrogen high. And as you can see here, crosstalk between inflammatory pathways and neural circuits in your brain can lead to behavioral responses such as avoidance. It's like, fuck, man, just had enough. I just want to get home, be left alone. I'm fucking exhausted. And what do you do when you get home? Beer, pizza, and you make it all worse. And that triggers alarm. So you worry all the time, which makes it worse again. So you've got to have a very strong mindset. And gut health is very important. So emotional stress, leaky gut. Physical stress, overtraining, and chemical stress, leaky gut. All right, so we've covered just about everything so far. We'll just quickly talk about the circadian rhythm. We're going to just go back here because the mitochondria need a healthy circadian rhythm. Otherwise, they're going to suffer. So when your circadian rhythm is busted, and I've got a video link below, and you should be able to see, I've got 2 videos on this, really important. So when it comes to your emotions, you feel like shit. Fluctuations in mood, irritability, anxiety, loss of empathy, frustration, impulsivity, negative salience, self-deprecating thoughts, worry. And because you're fatigued, you reach out for things like caffeine, which fucks up your sleep. And then at the end of the day, it's just like, I just want to take the edge off, man. Fucking had a bad day. And you think, just, no big deal. And then your cognition tanks. Cognitive performance, memory consolidation, long-term potentiation, working memory, attention, concentration, communication, decision-making, and creativity and productivity. Motor performance in the gym, at sports, golf, whatever it is, and social connectivity. So it's just like, leave me alone. I've had enough. And here's the long-term health consequences. So you can see the circadian rhythm is foundational. Absolutely. And the mitochondria need this to be set. So I've got videos linked below. Daytime sleepiness. Does that sound familiar? That was me for a long time. Micro sleeps, driving a car or whatever. Cardiovascular disease, altered stress response, altered sensory thresholds, infection, lowered immunity, cancer, metabolic abnormalities, the mitochondria, diabetes, depression, and even psychosis. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal. And I just wanted to finish on a couple of things. So I'll go over what I would like you to do to make sure you get this right. Just going back to these fucking chemicals. Now, your testosterone can go, it can do a lot of different things, but here's two pathways. Now, we wanted to go down here to dihydrate testosterone and not so much over here to estradiol. Now, dihydrate testosterone is 10 times more potent than testosterone, and it has a 2 to 5 times higher binding affinity to the androgen receptor. And these chemicals, even at low dose, complete suppression of dihydrate testosterone. These two videos here, and there's 15 things that we know of that will stop this and promote estradiol. This is Professor Huebman and Dr. Carl Giblett.
Finasteride inhibits the isoenzyme that is in genital skin, but not in the skin throughout the rest of your body. So a lot of the side effects of finasteride, which is loss of sensation and loss of erectile function, have to do with the disconcordance between the sensitivity of the genital skin and the skin.
Again, another reason to not disrupt 5-alpha reductase.
5-alpha reductase here. There's 15 things that can either completely inhibit it or slow it down so you make more estradiol. And so you can also have optimal T, but if your DHT is on the floor, this is how you feel.
Oh, yeah. But I had reported my own anecdotal experience that taking turmeric really crushed my DHT levels, and I did not feel good. I mean, it crushed all sorts of positive feelings of vitality. The moment I stopped taking turmeric, felt great again.
Many people report this.
Yeah, you don't want to crush dihydro at all. All right, so basically, as you can see there, big food, big toxic. It's going to lower your glutathione, your liver function. These food sensitivities, which I'll cover on the second video out from now. So if you like these videos, help me out here. Drop a comment below, like and share, and just help me reach more men. Understand that the system is busted and they can actually get back to their prime. This is possible. You can do this. I've also talked about primary and secondary hypogonadism, venous leak and varicocele, your omega index, your nutrient status and deuterium, mindset, which is pretty huge. And this is something I know a lot about. I know a lot about this because I had panic attacks, social anxiety, performance anxiety. And I had to work hard to be able to perform under pressure. And as you can see here, poor circadian rhythm. So if you like these videos, help us out. Drop a comment below. Now, in the caption here, if you want to reach out to me personally, there's a way that you can do that. And the other videos are also linked below. And on the next video, we're going to talk about your redox potential. So this is all about repair and detox. You have to redox to detox. And I'm also going to talk about genetics on the second video from this video out. So what I can tell you unequivocally, work with over 330 men. It's a case-by-case strategy. You have to become the detective. And the big take-home message that I want you to appreciate is this body, you have to treat it like a high-performing car. You've got to insure it. You've got to tune it up. You've got to garage it. You've got to look after it. You've got to put in the right fuels. Because if you don't, you will suffer. You will age faster, and you'll end up either 12 foot under the ground or in a nursing home. And that's not a life that I want, and I'm sure that you don't want that either. So there it is. And as I've shown you here, even if you're on testosterone replacement therapy, you can get off. You have to do testing to make sure it's possible for you. And if it isn't possible for you, you've got to be on testosterone replacement therapy at the right dose. You've got to microdose this. And this is very easy to do. So that's all I've got for you on this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I was entertaining, and I hope you've understood a lot of everything I've been talking about here. And if you haven't, drop a comment below, and I'll see you on the next video.